Love the Eagles as much as we do? Then hit that subscribe button and stick with us at Eagles Nest News for all the drama, updates, and hype all season long. In the last few hours, a storm of whispers has erupted around the Philadelphia Eagles, and it all circles back to one explosive line reportedly said behind closed doors. He's not playing for the Eagles ever again. Those words, supposedly coming from Nick Sirianni, dropped like a bomb inside the locker room. And no one imagined the target would be Saquon Barkley, the running back who arrived with star status and the promise of immediate impact. Now, the atmosphere is filled with uncertainty, tension, and that heavy air that only appears when something deep has been broken between a player and a coach. Internal sources, who prefer to remain anonymous, said the argument was ugly, intense, marked by raised voices and slamming doors, as if everyone around was witnessing a silent implosion no one dared to interrupt. Since then, the hallways of the training facility seem to have turned into an emotional minefield, where any word becomes a whisper, any glance becomes suspicion, and any movement, no matter how small, becomes material for more rumors. Some say Saquon never expected such a reaction. Others insist Sirianni had been building frustrations for weeks, and many believe this is only the beginning of something much larger and far more dramatic. The narrative takes on even more intriguing layers when insiders describe what may have been weeks of silent wear and tear between Saquon Barkley and the coaching staff. Although no one speaks officially, the buzz is that disagreements over the playbook, carry volume, and tactical decisions created deep cracks. On one side, Barkley is said to have expressed dissatisfaction with how he was being used, arguing that his explosive talent was not being taken advantage of the way it should be. On the other side, Sirianni, known for his firm stance, is said to have lost patience with what he considered contentious behavior. And when those two worlds collide, that of a player who believes he deserves protagonism and that of a coach who demands absolute discipline, friction becomes almost inevitable. Reports indicate that assistants tried to calm things down, but the atmosphere was already far too charged, a space where every phrase felt like provocation and every decision seemed personal. Now the question hovering over everything is whether this relationship has crossed a point of no return. Between muffled conversations and suspicious glances, everyone is trying to make sense of how the partnership meant to strengthen the offense turned into a spectacle of tension, pride, and resentment. And while no one speaks publicly, the silence speaks loudly. The situation became even more surreal when verbal confrontations between staff members and people close to the player began surfacing. Those who were present describe an environment where patience evaporated completely, transforming the mood at the training facility into something almost cinematic. Saquon, who has always maintained a public image of professionalism and maturity, was reportedly seen leaving the building with a hardened expression, avoiding reporters and surrounded by security who clearly had orders not to let anyone approach. Sirianni, on the other hand, stuck to his regular schedule, but the serious look on his face and the quick steps said more than words ever could. Something inside him had cracked. The noise behind the scenes grew to the point of reaching other players on the roster, who began wondering if they might be the next ones to collide with the head coach. Many are trying to process everything while avoiding taking sides. But the truth is the tension has spread like wildfire. When a coach drops a line as harsh as "he's not playing here ever again," it reverberates far beyond its target. It becomes a message, a warning, a symbol of internal crisis. Fans, of course, have already thrown themselves into the emotional eye of the storm. As soon as the rumors began circulating, social media exploded with heated debates, theories, and even videos of people analyzing old interview snippets from Saquon and Sirianni, trying to find hints that this explosion had been brewing for a long time. Some blame the coach, saying he lost emotional control and went too far. Others blame Barkley, arguing that his strong personality created unnecessary conflict. And still others insist the truth lies somewhere in between, hidden among misunderstandings, frustrated expectations, and the constant pressure that comes with life in the NFL. What's undeniable is that public opinion is now divided. and each new detail that emerges only fuels the fire. Some fans have even speculated about possible trades, while others believe this is nothing more than an emotional tactic to shake the team. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain. When fans start smelling a crisis, nothing goes unnoticed. And in this case, the scent is strong, intense, and hard to ignore. Meanwhile, sources close to the situation claim that the players' representatives have already begun moving behind the scenes. Confidential conversations are said to have taken place with team executives, seeking to understand whether Sirianni's statement reflects a definitive organizational stance or simply a momentary explosion. Barkley's camp, according to rumors, is deeply concerned about the impact this could have on his image, his future, and even his market value. There is also talk that some veteran players tried speaking with both Saquon and Sirianni to calm the situation, but so far, no one has managed to throw water on this emotional fire. What shocks most observers is how quickly the relationship between player and coach appears to have unraveled. One day, everything seemed stable, with a focus on practice and building chemistry. The next, a harsh and definitive comment became a headline. Now the question is whether this crisis will be resolved quietly or whether it's only beginning to spiral into something even bigger and less controllable. In the middle of all this turmoil, sports analysts have begun revisiting recent interviews and moments to piece together how things reached this point. Some note that Barkley had been dropping subtle hints of frustration, especially when commenting on the offensive dynamics. Others mentioned Sirianni's body language during press conferences, as if something had been bothering him quietly for weeks. All of this, of course, could be exaggerated interpretation, but when a rumor grows, every detail becomes potential evidence. Now, commentators debate the possible consequences. Could this redefine the future of the team? Will it open opportunities for emerging names to take the lead? Or is this just another tumultuous chapter that will soon be swept away by the NFL's endless news cycle? The truth is no one seems to know for sure. The only consensus is that a line like "he's not playing for the Eagles ever again" is not uttered lightly. It carries weight, intention, and above all, an impact that no one in the NFL universe can ignore. And as time passes, the mystery deepens, leaving everyone hungry for answers. The second wave of rumors, even more intense, began when stories emerged suggesting that members of the organization were divided about how to handle the Barkley-Sirianni situation. On one side, executives who see Barkley as a rare talent, capable of changing the course of a game with a single run, argue that nothing should be decided in the heat of the moment. On the other side, there are those firmly standing with the coach, insisting that the authority of the technical staff cannot be questioned and that allowing insubordination, if that's what truly happened, could set a dangerous precedent. This internal divide, even without official confirmation, has served as fuel for even more speculation. Whispers in the hallways, meetings that were supposed to be discreet but were noticed by curious eyes, phone calls that begin with doors closing quietly. All of this creates the perfect setting for a sports drama of huge proportions. The curious part is that, even among the club's employees, very few know the full extent of the conflict. Each person only has one piece of the puzzle. And while no one reveals the full picture, the vacuum is filled with interpretations, exaggerations, and stories that grow as if they were alive. Some insiders claim that Barkley, internally, is trying to maintain a calm posture, even though he knows his situation has become the center of attention. He is said to have confided to people close to him that he feels wronged, believing that his actions were misunderstood or even distorted. If that's true, it means the rift between player and coach may not be merely a matter of temperament, but of perception and narrative. On the other hand, sources connected to the coaching staff insist that Sirianni only made the explosive statement after a series of small incidents piled up, things like tardiness, unnecessary arguments, and disagreements over training routines. No one confirms anything publicly, but the report suggests the environment had been on the verge of boiling over for some time. What is most fascinating and worrying is how this type of conflict can affect an entire roster. Young players lose a clear reference point, Veterans try to remain neutral to avoid unnecessary friction, and the media speculates nonstop. Amid all of this, Barkley continues training alone, quietly, watching from a distance a team that may no longer see him the same way. What few talk about, but is already obvious to those paying close attention, is the psychological impact this crisis is having on the rest of the team. A football team is built on trust, hierarchy, and unity, and when a pillar as important as the relationship between a head coach and a star player collapses, the entire structure suffers. There are reports of players trying to maintain normal routines as if nothing were happening, but the uncomfortable silence in the locker room gives away the truth. Everyone feels the tension. Some players have even started questioning recent decisions, not because they disagree with them, but because the atmosphere has become heavier and more difficult to navigate. The feeling is that any comment can be misinterpreted, any joke can sound out of place, and any criticism can be seen as taking sides. For many, this toxic atmosphere is more exhausting than any physical injury. Some say that unless Barkley and Sirianni resolve their differences, if there is still room for that, the team will keep walking on broken glass. Uncertainty is the enemy of performance, and right now, it dominates every corner of the building. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In the midst of this emotional chaos, agents and external representatives have begun quietly exploring possibilities for Barkley's future should the rupture truly be irreversible. They cannot act officially, of course, but informal conversations always happen when a big-name player seems to be on the verge of changing teams. There's speculation about franchises that might attempt an aggressive move, even rivals who would love to exploit the Eagles' moment of vulnerability. At the same time, though, there's a sense that any hasty decision could backfire, especially if all of this turns out to be nothing more than a temporary emotional explosion. Barkley, despite being upset, still sees value in staying with the team, and some believe he is waiting for an apology, or at least an honest conversation. Meanwhile, agents observe, calculate, and stay in touch with journalists, leaking small fragments of information that subtly shape the narrative. To outside observers, it all looks like a political and emotional chess match, where every word, every gesture, and every silence carries multiple interpretations. And while nothing is resolved, more questions arise, feeding a rumor that refuses to die down. Experts have begun discussing not only the present, but also the legacy this episode might leave behind. Coaches are judged not only by wins and losses, but also by their ability to manage strong personalities. Players, too, are judged by how they handle internal adversity, especially when it involves authority figures. If the story ends with emotional and strategic reconciliation, both could emerge stronger as protagonists of a drama that ended well. But if the rupture holds, with Barkley actually being pushed out, the narrative may become a landmark that shapes both of their reputations for years. Sirianni would be seen as someone who refused to tolerate insubordination, but also as a coach who might have lost one of his brightest talents. Barkley, meanwhile, would be analyzed as a spectacular athlete whose path was marked by an unexpected internal conflict. None of this is simple, none of it is small. The rumor has grown so much that it has already crossed the city limits, reached national commentators, and fueled endless debates. And while everyone else voices their opinions, the main characters remain in total silence, letting the world guess what comes next. In the end, this episode seems like one of those moments that test not only the professionalism of players and coaches, but also the ability of an entire organization to withstand internal pressure. Every leaked word, every captured expression, every whispered rumor becomes part of a narrative that grows almost uncontrollably. Barkley's future with the team is wrapped in a dense fog created as much by emotions as by exaggerated interpretations from those watching from the outside. Sirianni, even without commenting publicly, knows his statement echoed loudly and left marks not easily erased. Now all that remains is to wait and see whether this emotional hurricane will turn into a definitive storm or whether, somehow, there's still room for an unexpected truce. What no one questions is the size of the impact. This rumor has already entered the collective imagination of the fan base, become mandatory fuel for sports debates, and shaken the emotional balance of the team. And yet, everything could change in an instant. All it takes is a conversation, a decision, a gesture that has not yet happened. Until then, the rumor remains alive, breathing and growing like a silent giant. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.